So welcome to the tutorial for Google Web Designer. This is using version 1.3 and I want to showcase how to create a billboard banner with Google Web Designer with a timeline. At the very beginning you can select between creating a new file from scratch or creating a new file from the template gallery. It's just a quick overview that there are many templates in the gallery, some of them separated by formats, some of them separated by verticals. But in this case, we want to start from scratch. When we create a new blank file, you can see on the left side there are several Google ads, the three standard formats, banner, expandable, and interstitial, and also some types like HTML if you want to create a whole website. We go with the banner format now, and we have the chance to select between double-click, AdWords, or generic. Generic is if you want to upload on different ad servers or don't want to use this ad with a specific ad server. In this case we go with double click, and the dimensions will be 970 by 250 and the animation mode will be quick. We start with quick, we will switch to advanced a little bit later. The billboard now is 970 by 250. You can see the stage now in the center of the screen of our tool. On the left side you can see the main tools where we can work with and animate. From top to the left you can see there is a move button and so on. On the right then there are panels where we can create the properties, the color, and have access to the components panel, creating events, and at the very beginning we wanna change the background of the creative, or we could do this here. Here are the components. You can see there's a tab area, we will focus on that later. There's a gesture component, image button if you want to do some mouse over effect, a tap to call where if you click on it on the mobile phone the call number will be called. There's a Swipable Gallery with its gallery navigation, and a Carousel Gallery which is very similar to Swipable Gallery but with 3D effects like the Coverflow from Apple iTunes. There's a 360 gallery, which maybe the name is a little bit confusing. It's not about 360 degrees, but it's a swipeable image gallery a little bit. So you can animate forward and backward by swiping your finger. Then of course video, YouTube, audio, and the maps component. And on the bottom you can see if I click on the plus, I'm able to add some own components that I've created before I have downloaded on the web, from the web. So at the very beginning I start with a background image. I drag it on the stage. I could also open it, create a div on the left side and convert it to an image tag, but I prefer dragging the images from the file mover, from the file finder to on the stage. So now I fix the position directly on position and size, left 0 pixel, top 0 pixel, and width of course 970 by 250. I want to start with an animation where the banner starts with a white blank screen and then the image will be faded in. In this case I don't want to fade the image in because I have several other assets that will be faded later. So in this case I cover the stage with a white panel. You can see I've created the panel here now. It's called fader. You can see the properties, the ID is fader. I give it the color white, and opacity is, you can see now if I drag and drop the numbers down, the opacity I want to change from 1 to 0. 1 is 100% and 0 is that is totally invisible. So you can see now in the quick animation mode I can simply add a new frame, a new keyframe by clicking the plus and then change the state, and then the transition can be changed by changing the duration. In this case I don't want to have a half second but want to have 2 seconds, and if I click on the curve on the right I can select between linear movement, linear transition, easing, ease in, out, and so on. And you can see now if I click on the play button how the animation looks like. However, this is a very simple animation. As I want to go a little bit deeper into animation, I now switch to the advanced mode. And here you can see now that both the background image and the fader both have keyframes now. And if I grab the timeline a little bit, the scrubber, and drag and drop, drag it around the timeline, you can see for each frame how the animation looks like. By the way, Google Web Designer is not really frame based, it's time based, so you can see on the timeline that there are no numbers for frames, but there is a really timeline, so with the duration in seconds. So now I've added a new logo that should also be faded in at the very beginning. This should a little bit last a little bit longer, so the logo will be visible and then will be faded out a little bit later, starting with the finishing, ending with the 3rd second. Okay, so let's have a look how it looks like. Okay. On the left now I start with the first claim. I'm not satisfied with Times New Roman, doesn't fit really to my ad, so I wanna create my own font or add my own font. In this case I wanna go through the Google fonts that are hosted on a Google server, and I'm looking for a nice font that could fit to my design of the creative now. Cabin, Fulcrum, I'm not sure, going a little bit deeper. Yeah, a little bit deeper. So Quicksand, no, it's too small, too thin for this huge image. Need a bold one. Patua 1 could do the job. Okay, let's try with that. This is amazing. Okay, click on OK. And now if I click on at the very beginning, this is important, yeah. Don't start writing, but change the options at the very beginning. So you can see now it's still Times New Roman. If I, the best SUV of its class should be the claim. So now I select everything and then I change the size, I change the color, and I change my additional font. You could see below there was a web font now added to the fonts menu. Now I wanna select the color, which is very similar to the basic green tone of the, it makes sense, of the whole creative. Okay, so we have now the final design of the claim, the best SUV of its class. Okay, this should also now be animated. So the story could be a little bit boring, all those animation stuff. There's nothing too much new, but as I want to showcase how the whole thing works, unfortunately we have to go through all the basic steps once or more again. So you can see now the font should be invisible at the very beginning. This is my initial state. And then at the same time, as soon as the logo vanishes, my claim, which I have called text_best SUV, should appear. And shouldn't only appear, it should also move a little bit. So very, very important. If we move in and if we animate and change positions in Google Web Designer, please don't select left and top and don't animate those, because those are CSS2 and not CSS3. So here I'm changed the values in the 3D position and view. You can see now X is minus 37 pixels. And this is how I create the animation, because if I use the 3D position and view, Google Web Designer will push it animation automatically to the hardware accelerated GPU. And so it won't flicker, which could be the case if I animate top and left. So this is very, very important. One of the basic learnings of Google Web Designer. With top and left position, please just define the original position. But then as soon as you go into animating, please only change the 3D position and view. On JavaScript code or CSS, it's the translate X and translate Y and Z. Okay, now let's have a look at animation, how far we are now. The logo vanished a little bit later. Here is the animation of the claim, and that's it. So it will appear. It is invisible at the very beginning, and will appear, will move into the screen, into the stage, and then will disappear. Now, like any creative that for any car, for any automotive, Vertical is always, you know, a little bit shiny, a little bit upper class from the whole design. That's why I've decided to add a shine, which is actually a lens layer which I've created at GIMP before. So as soon as the claim moves into the stage, there is a lens flare that should appear on the screen, will be faded in, and then rotate a little bit and then fade out again, which makes it a little bit more glossy, shiny, upper class. So unfortunately it's invisible now, but I won't change this now. But you can see now that I rotate the whole image. It is very important that the lens flare image has its center point in the center, so that it, especially there where the big lens flare effect is, the big light circle, so that it makes sense and that it looks kind of naturally. Let's have a look how it looks like now. I see, okay. Yeah, so the lens flare is now hiding the claim. That's why I put the lens flare below. I have the 4 buttons at the top navigation. You can see I put it 1 layer below. This has changed now the timeline. Okay, now let's animate again. No, it looks like, okay, it's fine now. Time to add our car now. This is our car. It's the new Trabi off-road. So it makes sense. I drag it on the screen, put it on the right position until I say, no, this looks fine. This is now amazing. We have a Trabant off-road, of course, a car that never existed, especially not as a SUV version. And I want to animate this car now. So after the claim with the lens flare has been animated, the car should drive in from the right side. Easy animation, of course. So when I showcased this creative the very first time to an audience, the audience were asking in Flash was possible to also animate the wheels, for example. So of course this could also be possible here. If you double click on the car image of the car, or if you put the car into an extra div folder, an extra tag, then you can create your own timeline and have soup animations. Means that you can also rotate the cars if you have them on a separate layer. Although in this perspective, to be honest, it doesn't make too much sense, because it's a 3D view, and instead of having circles, they look a little bit oval, so the animation could make sense. So that's why I didn't want to animate the wheels here now. Okay, now let's optimize animation a little bit. So as you can see now, the left hand position and the top position won't be changed, but the same with the claim at the very beginning. I only changed the 3D position and view, and this makes the car look like driving on the rock from the right side. Time for another claim. After the best SUV of its class, of course, there must be the name of the car. And once more again, I select my font. I've created now a text field. Made some mistake, delete it again, sorry for that. Here is my text field. And now I write the new Trabi off-road. And then, of course, I select once more again the right font, so that it looks nice. Change the size. Select Partout font, and then make it a little bit more colorful, so the size a little bit smaller, that the whole claim fits to the text field. Back to the screen, I select once more again. Well, it's not exact the same green like the first claim, but it should look similar. So to make it fast, I've chosen the green color randomly now, as long as it looks very similar. Okay, so now I've given an ID, the text, the new Trabi, and now I change the second part of the font, the Trabi off-road, yeah, Perpetua font again, and make it a little bit smaller. Now it makes sense. I push it to the left now. You can see I changed the left position because this is initial position and this is where it should appear. So I don't animate, I just redefined original position. Okay, so of course should be opaque at the very beginning. Not opaque, should be invisible at the very beginning, and then should appear as soon as the car drives in. So we change, we add a new keyframe. And here I make the claim opaque again. By the way, if you hover on a value and then drag down or to the top the mouse pointer, then the value can also change. So in this case, I change the usually linear animation to a custom one to make it appear a little bit more beautiful. Unfortunately, if you see now the animation, it looks very flickering and doesn't smooth. So the reason is that with the recording, with the screencast, unfortunately the screencast was a little low. That's why it doesn't look so smooth. But honestly, if you try to do the same tutorial on your computer in your own Google Web Designer, you can see that all the animations are very good, because even here all are hardware accelerated. Maybe interesting to know that Google Web Designer itself has been developed in HTML5. So the whole tool is wrapped into a Chrome container, and the whole tool itself has been developed in HTML5 and JavaScript. So now we want to do our animation, our creative, a little bit more interactive. That's why we now create a little button. First of all, off the stage, so that we can have a better overview. I make the corners a little bit round. It's very basic. I don't give too much efforts on this button. So I change the position and size, top and left, to make this the initial position. And now I want to animate the button coming to the stage, driving and flying in from the left side. So this is my initial position, and now I change the X position of the 3-position view to make it hardware accelerate again. So now interesting, this is only a black box. I could now also create a component, or could also create a text field and animate those with the same animation. But in this case, now I've double clicked on the button. You can see the borders have changed from blue to red now, and you can see the timeline has totally vanished. You can see a new timeline. This is now the timeline for the button itself. So here we can create sub animations. In this case, unfortunately, we don't need an animation. We just need a button, means a text field, and then later a component. So field experience should be the button. I changed the font to Partua 1 again. Make it a little bit more colorful, that we can see it better on the screen. And also change the size a little bit. Fitting the better green now. Visible. Okay, I make too big. Okay, make it. Okay, here we are. Now we push with the mouse cursor keys. Now I put the text field into the center of my button. Okay, it does the job. Now I go, come on, change top and left position. You see now that if I've selected top 0 pixels and top 0 pixels, that the text field didn't appear at the top left bottom of the top left corner of the stage bar, or the top left of the button. So you can see this is now a sub kind of movie clip, a sub asset of the button. Okay, now this is the first time that we now use a component. In this case, it's a tab area. I change the tab area. This will be a part where if I move the mouse cursor above it, that it will look like a mouse pointer and not like the mouse cursor, so that the users know, oh, there's something to click here. I adapt the size of the tab area so that it fits to the bottom. Okay, we can see now the animation. If I animate, now because the text field and the tab area are part of the button container, that they will follow the animation. Let's see in the browser preview how it looks like. So, and you can see now if I hover the button, you can see that the mouse pointer looks like the hand cursor. So the users know that this is something where they can click on. Okay, next part. You can see this is the first page. I can create simply a new one. If I click on it, bam, you can see here now there is an empty stage. First page is this one. Page 1_1 is the empty one. And now I want to do some interaction, means if the user clicks on field experience, he should directly be moved to the next page. This indirection here. So let me see how we can do this. Okay, for page 1_1, to make it look a little better, I've copied now the background image from page 1 to 1_1, and also I want to have the car, the image of the car, being visible on page 1_1. So those are the assets that will remain on stage. I see. Okay, now you can see that the left and top position remain the same, so I have to adapt them a little bit. Going back to page 1_1, this is not animated part, so I can keep left and top, but I need to change the 3D options, means changing the X and the Y position. Okay, now I'm fine. This should do the job. If I switch now from page 1 to 1_1, you can see there it should be exact the same position. Okay, cool. So now we are going to the event. Click on the plus for a new event, and you can see now there is a button, which is here in the background. All those assets are on the stage, but I need the button here and the included tab area. If I click on mouse, I only focus on the events that a mouse can do. If I click on touch, I can only handle the touch events, but in this case I want to handle both for mobile and for desktop, so I use the tab area, mouse and touch. And here we are on the page deck now. Page deck and Google Ad. So important, there's also a go to page. In this case it's a Google Ad. If I now select a new page, this will also be tracked if I create a button. If you only go the way with page deck, there won't be no tracking. So if you create a generic ad, page deck is the way to go. So I changed the page ID where I want to switch and the transition. You can see now there was a submenu with slide. Let's have a look how this looks like now in the browser. Transition between page 1 and page 1_1. Let's wait how the animation has finished. Here's our animation, and now if I click on the button, you can see that the second stage or the second page will be works as a slide and then covers the first stage. There are several other ones. I can set the direction now. There is a push version. Let's have a look how this looks like. Those are the animated ones, and of course there's also a fading. So imagine that we are in iframe. So if I click on it now, one page will push the other one out of stage. If we are within iframe, there won't be a white space between both. This is only the case because we are on a huge screen now. So we want to make it simple, we want to make it fade from one stage to another within 1 second. And this is how it looks like. If I preview on it, let's finish first to make it a little bit faster. So what we want to do now is add a Swipable Gallery or a YouTube video. We start with the YouTube video on page 1_1, where the YouTube panel here, and now we change the size a little bit, we set the position, we have a lot of space here now. I go to the properties, and as soon as I've selected a component, you can see that at the bottom of the property section, there are now the component properties. But first of all, we change the width and the height and the position so that it looks nice and totally fits to our ad. Okay, we don't need 3D position and style. And so here we are, the components properties. First of all, I give it a name. I call it fancy enough the YouTube layer. Now I put a YouTube URL into it. It's youtube.com/watch So the video will be, as a video that I found on YouTube, is a small race, a car race between a Porsche and a Trabant. Autoplay is set to standard. The preview duration I put to 30 seconds. The controls, means play and the scrubber bar, should be visible. So this is the chromeless YouTube play in this case. I don't need the player theme, which is dark or light, because the Chrome, it's a chromeless version. Video should start because it's usually initiated with sound. And you can see now there are advanced properties, so it could be that I've added the logo for full screen support, but that's it so far. Let's see how the creative looks like now in the browser. So you can see that embedding code is really easy. This is the animation. And if I click on Field Experience, it fades from one screen to another, and then the YouTube video starts, and here you can see the race now. This has been filmed with a handycam. So actually there are not so many videos of Trabis on YouTube. So that's why I've chosen this one. Okay, you can see how this works. It's really easy adding a YouTube video. Now for the next step, we want to create a new button. For this we simply copy the box with the old one, the container, with the Field Experience button. Copy and paste. And as soon as here's the button, and you can see now in the properties that Google Webdesigner renames the ID to button_1. Now I set the position. This is now really easy doing because I can simply save the time and don't need to create a new text field, don't need to create a tab area. So you can see how the animation should look like. The first button should fly in at the bottom from the left, and the other one should fly in from the center of the left, and fly in like that. So both times the button called Field Experience doesn't make sense. That's why the animation has been done now. I double click onto it. You can see now the red borders again. And now the text area is hiding the button is hiding the text area. That's why I make it invisible now. Now I have access to the text area. So the tab area is still on the stage but not visible for us. So instead of Field Experience, it should say Gallery. So that users know if they click on it that they will see a nice gallery with old signs and ads for the Trabi. Okay, so gallery has been done. Let's create a new page. In this case I make it easy. I simply copy the page 1_1 to page 1_2 and then delete the YouTube layer, because in this case I want to add the gallery component. So mark and delete, and then go to the components panel and move this swipeable. Oh no, let's choose the Carousel Gallery because it looks a little bit more fancy. It's a 3D effect. Put it on stage, and now also similar to the YouTube component, change the size and the position. Instead of doing this with the properties, I could also do this with the transform control, which I've selected now at the upper navigation bar. So this should be a little bit bigger than the YouTube component. Okay, so now go back to the properties. Carousel Gallery _1 is the name to go. Okay, fine. Let's go to the bottom to the component properties. So I named this gallery, fancy enough, gallery. And now simply add the images that I've prepared before. So there's the source folder, and I have tr0 to tr4.jpg. Add it to the gallery and click on OK. So, and then these are the additional options. Transition time is the time between the animation between one panel to the other one. Start frame should be the second one, and then you can see now these are the advanced properties. So my images should be 300 by 220. This is the original image size. Neighbor rotation should be 90 degrees. Okay, I'm satisfied with those values. And now if Is this all? Let's see. Let's make it a little bit more in the center. Yeah. No. Deep. So as the images have the height of 220 pixels, of course also the gallery component should have this height, otherwise the images will be clipped. So let's give it a try how this looks like. First of all, we have to assign the gallery button with a transition to our page 1_2. So the same procedure again, tab area, touch click event at the same time for both devices, desktop and mobile and tablet. And then for Google Ad, second row, go to page, target is the GWD ad. And again, now I change the page ID from page 1 to page _2. Make a fade. And now let's have a look at the preview. This is our well-known animation now. Lens flare car coming in, both buttons here now, and if I click on the gallery, now, you can see now the Swipable Gallery, and it's rotating once through all those because I've selected autoplay. And now if I swipe to the left or to the right, I can see like a Coverflow, the images flying in a kind of 3D area. So you can see now I'm very satisfied. First of all, okay, so this is the area where I can publish now locally. Means I can create a zip on my own hard disk or push it directly to Google Drive or push it to DoubleClick Studio. But first of all, we need an exit. Of course, if you're a web developer and you have created a banner before, you always know that for rich media creatives you need an exit, which is kind of a click-through. Therefore, I create a tab area again. I drag a tab area on page 1_1 and I call it GWD exit area 1 and put it on the stage. Very important, behind the YouTube video, otherwise I can't use it. So that's why I've put it one layer to the back. Okay, now this has been solved. Okay, go to properties. Now assign the event. A new event, exit area, tab area again for touch and click for both. If no Google ad in this case, not go to page, but an exit. Target is GWD ad again, and now it's a matrix ID. So in this case, I give it a name. In this case, background _ exit for video panel, and I give it URL. URL is not really important. You could also put something fancy into it. Those URLs can be changed later in DCM or Studio, or can be changed by the media agency. But really necessary is the name of the exit name. So the same procedure now for page 2. We go through it very fast. So I simply copied the exit area. Now it's called area 1_1. We don't make any changes now. Do exactly the same. Exit area 1_1. Tab area, touch click, Google ad, exit. Because it's nice to know if the users leave the ad by clicking on the video panel or by clicking on the gallery panel. So the matrix ID is now background _ exit _ gallery. URL added to google.com again. As it's not expanding, no need for collapse on exit. Okay, preview now. So there should be 2 exits now. Or animation. So, and if I now click on one of both buttons, in this case the experience, you can see that the background also I can click on it. There's now the hand, the mouse pointer, and then the exit opens. This has worked. Now I can publish, in this case very easily going publish locally. And these are now the settings. Name is of course the name of the creative. I can create a zip, which makes sense to upload it. It's very easy. Inline local files is important that the JavaScript and the CSS files are part of the original HTML, especially if you're creating a standard banner. and there's a file size limit of 10 assets. Minify makes sense, polite loading also, groups packing, add border is also important. For many publishers, they need a border, and it's very complicated. You need 4 divs with a color and assign them around. So Google Web Designer has an option, add border white or black. And then you publish, and there we are.